Hello, everyone. This is Sarah Johnson with Appulate. Thank you so much for joining us for our HSB or Hartford Steam Boiler Equipment Breakdown webinar. We will also be covering cyber liability as well. I know we have a couple of folks who are jumping in to audio right now, so I'll just go over a few webinar logistics and then we will get started. So due to the size of the webinar and multiple attendees being on today's call, all questions will be taken at the end of the webinar and using the questions box of the webinar screen. We won't be taking any questions during the webinar, but please feel free to utilize that questions box at any point. We will be taking a look at those and get you the answers that you are looking for. The webinar is being recorded and will be available within 24 hours of our presentation ending. So now that we've kind of gone through a few of those logistics, let's go ahead and get started. I'm going to go ahead and share my screen. Now we are going to start at appulate.com/sign in. And there may be some of you on the call today who are unsure of if you have Appulate credentials, and that's completely okay. If you're unsure, try resetting your password first. So everyone who will use Appulate, your username will always be your email address. It's not going to be anything else besides that. Go ahead and click that forgot password option, and the system will then let you reset your password. If it doesn't recognize your username for whatever reason, then it will have you sign up now instead. Once you have entered your credential information for Appulate, again, one more time, that URL is appulate.com/sign-in. We'll click the big blue sign in button. Now, I recommend everyone make sure that HSB is a market in your agency's selected market list. So let's check out how to view that. We'll head to markets at the very top of the screen, then click on selected from the drop-down menu. You should see HSB or Hartford Steam Boiler in your agency's selected market list. If you do not, it's very easy to add it as a selected market to your agency's selected market list. We'll head back to market at the very top of the screen, select available this time from the drop-down menu, and you would simply head to the search bar at the top, type in HSB. Once you hit enter, it would narrow down HSB. I already have it in my selected market list, so I'm not currently going to see it. Now let's talk about what it looks like to create a submission with an Appulate. Now, those agents who want to submit to HSB, whether you use Accord forms or whether you do not use Accord forms, you can still submit to HSB using Appulate. I do understand that sometimes cyber liability and equipment breakdown don't always have Accord forms associated with them. But for those who do use Accord forms or even just have an Accord 125 with the base information on it, let me show you one other tool that's going to be very useful for you to bridge over the information from your Accord form and get it into Appulate so that you're submitting to HSB faster. We'll head to tools at the very top of the screen. Then please select Appulate Uplink, the third option down from our drop-down menu, and this will take you to the Appulate Uplink screen. This is free for you to download. This tool is going to help bridge over the information from your Accord forms and get them into Appulate so you're submitting to HSB. One disclaimer that I do like to mention is if you are an agent who accesses any parts of the internet via a Citrix environment or a remote server, you will want to have your IT department download Appulate Uplink to your main server. But for those agents who do not use the Citrix environment, please feel free to click the big blue download Uplink driver button and run the download. I'll show you what Uplink does in just a little bit, but for now, let's see what it looks like to add a customer directly into Appulate, say if we didn't have an Accord form. We will do that by clicking the Add New Customer or Prospect button. I'm at the very top of the screen, top left-hand side of the screen. We're going to type in our HSB test insured today. type in all the base information that you would normally have for your insured. I'm going to type in an address and finally a phone number. Once we've typed in the base information for our insured, please click the blue Create button, kind of located to the bottom right of the screen. Then from our product line, click the drop-down menu. I'm actually going to type in equipment breakdown. Please double check your effective date and make sure it's the effective date that you're looking for, and then click continue. This will then take you to your submission screen. You can see that the address is already populated in our submission because we added it just a few moments ago when we created our insured profile. So now let's select HSB as our market. We will then click the plus sign just underneath the market name section, kind of near the left-hand side of the screen. I am going to then select HSB and add my market. Now, we have a couple of indicators here that are going to help us move through the submission. HSB is able to provide us with an instant quote based off of our risk characteristics, and two tools that Appulate has built into the platform to help get the risk characteristics over to HSB are the letter indicator, located kind of to the middle of the screen. In this instance, it's an orange A for pending acceptance, or there is a red number next to the tab in the middle of the screen. If we look at our submission, we can see that that red indicator is outside of our location. So let's go ahead and expand the location. You can see that the building number is the very first question. And if I hover over my letter indicator, that's also the very first question. When I click the live and dynamic link provided by the letter indicator, the system actually automatically puts my cursor there. Kind of point being, and why I'm showing you this, is regardless of what method feels comfortable for you to answer the missing and required questions for HSB, feel free to use either or. Whether you like looking at the tabs or whether you like using the live and dynamic links list provided by the letter indicator, both methods are perfectly fine. So let's now provide the information that HSB needs. So this is location 1. It's also going to be building 1. We're going to look for restaurants. Can't type today. Restaurants. And we're going to be taking a look at full service restaurants. Our building value is $2.5 million. Our contents we'll say is $750,000, and our business income is $2.5 million as well. So very easy to identify what questions are missing and required. Now let's identify some other things that are going on here. We have our letter indicator change to a green A for ready to submit, which is our ultimate goal. So to submit to HSB, please do not rely on this estimated premium column, as it is only an estimated premium. You will need to head to the Actions tab on the very far right-hand side of the screen and click Submit. The system will then pop up with your quote parameters that you will want to confirm. We will do that by clicking Submit just one more time here. The system is then going to begin loading, and we now have our instant quote. We also have our request to bind. So feel free to click on the PDF quote, open it up, and you can see it's exactly how you would receive it from HSB directly, because you are receiving it from HSB directly. You're just utilizing Appulate's technology to do so. So feel free to forward it to your insured. Whatever process you normally have, feel free to follow those processes. If you were ready to request the bind, once you come back into the Appulate system and click Request to Bind, it will send a notification to HSB to finalize the bind. That is the equipment breakdown side. I do want to show you how quick and easy it is now to clone the information we just entered for equipment breakdown and quickly create the cyber liability. This is a sneak preview. This is not going to be launching until tomorrow, but we want to make sure that everyone's had the opportunity to see how quick and easy it is to duplicate the same information. From the drop-down menu, next to where it says quote prepared at the top of the screen, we'll click the down arrow and select create new request for quote or policy. We will now select our line, cyber liability. Again, double check that effective date and then click continue. Any duplicate information that pertains to our previous submission for the same insured has bridged over. We'll now click the plus sign under the market name section, select HSB, and add our market. Very same workflow. You can see that regardless of the line of business, the workflow is the same. We now have a letter indicator, and I also want to point out that we do have some quote parameters that we need to take care of. Go ahead and click on the quote parameters with the red one kind of in the middle of the screen. You can choose your limit here, select $1 million, and click close. Click the drop-down menu for the group. In this instance, we chose a restaurant, so under hospitality, and then class of business, which will be a new sub-question. We can select restaurant. We're going to enter our gross projected revenues for the year. Click next to move on to the underwriting section. I do want to point out that, yeah, okay, this seems like several questions that have to be answered for underwriting, but let's say, for example, that in not all the cases, but they might all be no. Rather than clicking on each one by one, you can click mark all no, double check the questions, and then click yes on the ones that happen to apply and happen to be yes. So it's a really quick way to get through your underwriting questions. Now we have received, again, that green A that's ready to submit. So we'll head to the actions column, far right-hand side of the screen, and click submit. Again, we're going to double check our quote parameters there and click submit. Just like with equipment breakdown, we're going to be able to get that instant quote for us here. The system is going to load a little bit slower than equipment breakdown just because this doesn't technically launch until tomorrow. And it's a little slower in my training environment. But you can see in really less than 12 minutes, we were able to not only produce quotes for equipment breakdown through HSB, but also cyber liability. You're not having to rekey any data that's duplicate. Here's that quote information. Here's our PDF. We'll click on it, open up the quote. Here is that cyber liability quote. Again, just as you would normally receive it from HSB directly, because you are receiving it from HSB directly. You just happen to be using Appulate's technology to do so. The request to bind process is just as it is with equipment breakdown. If you are ready to bind, click request to bind, and it's going to send that bind request over to HSB. Now, you should all be able to see the handout available in your webinar screen. I do want to point out that everyone should save this. This is a quick, I'm gonna pull up my same handout that you have as well. This is a really quick and easy guide on how to quote HSB's equipment breakdown and cyber coverages in Appulate. So if you just needed to take a look at something really quickly as a refresher, not only will you have this webinar available to you later, but you have this very convenient one-pager to help you move through the submission as well. Now, I do have Brian on the phone from HSB, and I do want to open it up for any questions. That really does simplify the workflow. See if there's any questions that the audience may have at this time. Shortly, I will go over how to bridge over an accord form as well. Just wanted to see if there was anything maybe I hadn't taken a look at yet. All right, I don't think we quite have any questions yet, which is completely fine. Let me show you how to bridge over an accord form if you didn't want to start directly with an Appulate. Yes, Brian?
Just before you do that, again, if the agents are not currently appointed, with HSB as they go through the bind and request to bind process. We will certainly work with them very closely and walk them through the agency appointment process simultaneously. So again, for those that may not have an appointment or a license with HSB, that's certainly something that we will work through as we go through the binding process. So just an FYI there.
Yes, definitely. Thank you, Brian. Again, everybody, Brian is with HSB, and if you do not have an appointment with HSB, no worries at all. When you are ready to bind, once you click request to bind, you're going to get this pop-up in the middle of the screen that's going to let them know that your bind request is being forwarded to HSB, and they're going to send over the account for clearance and process the appointment for your agency. HSB will reach out with any additional information that's needed for your appointment.
Thanks, Sarah.
Yeah, thank you, Brian. All right, now I just want to show everyone, I'm going to go back to my all insured screen. I do that by clicking on insured and then all insured. This is the only test that I have in Appulate right now in my profile. If I bridge over an Accord form, it's going to create the insured profile for me, so I do not have to do this in advance. There are two ways to utilize that Appulate uplink tool that you have the opportunity to download and can download again. It is free for everyone to use. The first way would be to open up the Accord form wherever it lives. For me, it's on my desktop. For you, it might be in an agency management system, and that's completely fine. You'll just go ahead and open that Accord form in whatever location it happens to be in. If it's in your AMS or on a file on your desktop, whatever happens to be most convenient for you. I apologize, my PDF reader seems to be a bit slow. There we go. So this is just an Accord 125. There's nothing else attached to this. And it's actually labeled differently. So our other profile was HSB insured test, and this is just HSB test. So let's click the print button on the bottom left-hand side of my screen, but it would be wherever print is for you in your Accord view. Please make sure that then Appulate Uplink is your preferred printer driver. Then we would click print. Once you click print, momentarily, Appulate is going to give you a pop-up asking you to validate your Appulate credential information. And this is so it can bridge over the information from the Accord and get it into Appulate. So here is that pop-up you see. You would simply click send, and the system would open up Appulate. Another very popular shortcut that I like to show, here's that same Accord form. I will now right-click on my Accord form with my mouse, select Appulate Uplink from the shortcut list, and I get the same pop-up. So there is no right or wrong way to utilize the Appulate Uplink print driver. It's simply a matter of convenience. Now we will hit send. It's going to open up Appulate, and we uplinked an Accord 125. So from this drop-down menu, we want to submit equipment breakdown. So we'll type in EQ, we'll go to equipment breakdown, then we will hit continue. So just selecting the line of business we want to work on. And now the screen should look very similar for everyone. You click that plus sign in the add market section. It's going to give us the pop-up here in just a second to add HSB, add our market, and you go through the same process we went through just a few minutes ago, answering the missing and required questions. Now, if I go back to insured and click on all insured, there's that second insured. So if you happen to have an Accord form, even if it's just an Accord 125, it can save you any rekeying time simply by bridging over the information from your Accord form and getting it into Appulate so that you can get to HSB even faster. And that goes through the workflow for HSB powered by Appulate. I am going to, just to refresh for those who may have hopped on after the initial minute of the webinar, we will be posting this webinar for on-demand within 24 hours of today's webinar. I do want to open it up for any questions. So if anyone has any questions in our audience today, please feel free to utilize the questions box of the webinar screen. We do have Brian, again, here with HSB as well. Brian, did you have anything that you wanted to add?
No, just that we're very excited to partner with Appulate and provide an easier way to get access to our products. That's the whole idea of this. So please feel free to use it. That's the message.
Definitely. And again, it is free for everyone to use. HSB has partnered with Appulate, bringing their cyber liability product and equipment breakdown product to you. So the use of Appulate, the downloading of Uplink, it is all free for you to use. Again, I will be posting this webinar within 24 hours on our on-demand view. So anyone else from your agency that you would like to watch this training today, you will be able to send them over to appulate.com/agent-webinars. I'll show you where that is from within the system as well. If you go to help and click on webinars, it takes you to our webinar view, and that's appulate.com/agent-webinars. If you scroll down, I will be posting the webinar in our on-demand webinars view. Again, you do not have to be appointed with HSB in advance to access their equipment breakdown or cyber liability. You are able to jump into Appulate, quote, and then go through HSB's appointment process when you are ready to bind. And we do have it open for any questions. So those with questions, please feel free to utilize the questions box of our webinar screen. All right, well, I will go ahead and do a last call for questions. Give everyone some time back in their day. We really appreciate everyone hopping on our training webinar with us. Again, this is going to be available for viewing. Actually, everyone who signed up for the webinar today will also get a copy of the webinar automatically emailed to them. So you don't even have to refer to appulate.com/agent-webinars if you didn't want to. Just keep an eye out for the email that's going to be sent to you from GoToWebinar.
Hey, Sarah.
Yeah.
One of the things that I found really helpful as you're going through this, again, you've been to the webinar now and you have a recording, but there's also a chat function that while you're in there that Appulate uses to support. So even, with all those tools you have, if you're into the platform and you have a question and you don't want to necessarily go back to look at a full webinar, there is a chat function that I found very supportive and very easy to work through any quick questions you might have regarding the process and how to use the Appulate platform.
Definitely, yes. Thank you so much. So we have implemented a chat into Appulate. I will just let everyone know it does start out as a bot, just so it gets you to the right support channel, answer a couple basic questions, and then it's going to get you directly to someone who can assist with any questions that you have. Well, thank you everybody so much for your time today. I really appreciate your attention. If you have any questions, please feel free to reach out to us at support@appulate.com, and we would be happy to assist. Or our chat bot as well. But one more time, that email address, just in case you're not in the platform to use the chat, the email address is support@appulate.com. Thank you all so much for your time today, and I hope you have a great rest of your day. Thank you for watching our HSB powered by Appulate webinar for equipment breakdown and cyber liability. Take care.
Yes, and thank you from HSB too.
Thanks, Brian. Thank you, HSB. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.